That's good. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Proclamation News and Gavins with the prodigious, the prominent professor. Thank you all for coming through, just going live, talking about compassion, part of my academic integrity. So I'm looking at my last assignment as well as further reading because I like to get further in depth of knowledge of what Shofana and Shantideva are going on about when they talk about compassion. As we know, Buddhism. Before I go into my scripture, as we know, Buddhism, they meditate through a way of compassion. But when they're grieving, they meditate, concentrate on breathing, like time forbearance. I try to, but I get so I don't know. I feel like I function. Maybe I function, maybe I don't. Maybe when you're all upset, we all function in the same way, but you just don't see it. Some people. Anyway, here we go. So we're comparing a contrast what Chauvin and Shantideva say about compassion. What might views not always be the same? If we look at both verses of Shantideva's version of compassion and Shantideva, we've all got our own version of compassion. I've got my own version, but I won't go into that. I'm going to read this is my essay, how I started off. Chauvin's ideas, as we understand his viewpoint of compassion throughout his Buddhist virtue, which to me is very similar to Christianity. Being a Christian myself, I see the sense within its virtue of how Chauvin explains. For one other human suffering, he also says, we care in sufferance. To me, he's suggesting a problem shared is a problem halved, as we well know. As in Christianity, we tend to try help one another through grieving within pain and loss. He then goes on to suggest him from suffering or distress, as it was his own, to help you relief from the pain of sufferance. This shows a good value of Buddhism culture, working through together as a family unit. He then goes on to suggest as individuals that you nor I are separate, as we are one. Here Shofner shows the importance of compassion. Compassion means as below. Hi, Mr. Valpy, I'll be with you 2 seconds, buddy. Concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. This withholds a strong Buddhist of trust and value. Like a family union, passionate people within the world know too much about the world to be cheerful. I.e., writers, poetry, philosophers become just happy to express themselves. In fact, we might have night and day. Now we get a bright idea of what Chopin is suggesting. When he suggests, on the account of suffering through somebody else, this is why he thinks compassion can help us escape our own suffering. To me, suggesting taking somebody else's suffering will make you realise you're not suffering alone. So we tend to use that to reflect on our own sufferings as a simple guidance. By doing this, we'll begin to realise we're not alone in the world. We would bounce back to see somebody else that need our compassionate side. It is the compassionate alone. It is compassion alone which is the real basis of voluntary justice and a genuine living kindness. The show's love and kindness is what Buddhism is all about. Shofner goes on to suggest that the ascetic life is not to come easy. The ascetics of life, I mean, I'm in an ascetic sort of life in a minute. I've been deprived of everything. I've been deprived of my bad marriage that fell to pieces. I've been deprived of my children. But I'm living the life through ascetics, through food banks. I'm still got a smile on my face. I'm still producing good material. I'm still using my academic integrity. Very little I have left. So very little self-esteem. Although to you guys, you might think, wow, this guy is quite phenomenal with his scripture, with his English literature. But really, what's inside, the pain inside? As we all know, life is not all whistling Dixie, daffodils and rainbows. It has its obstacles, sick, illness, family, friends. We lose loved ones throughout our livelihood. If only life was led through by its ascetics, it would be a simple world and life to lead. A never-ending fairy tale. So the life of an ascetic one has become an inevitable one due to course. Ascetic is life is a nirvana towards God's spirit. Through the life torment, nothing will move him or distress. Through the pain, torment and danger and alarm bells, which he may suffer, which will not be such a surprise anymore. Life torment comes at us like the end of a game of chess. Our life is over when we get checkmate, until we say enjoy it calmly and with a smile. Schopenhauer and the burden of compassion. Compassion is the only possible motivation for acting morally, that is altruistic. The experience of compassion lessens our own suffering by distracting us from our own needs and concerns. The experience of compassion allows some people to fully appreciate the universality of suffering, leading them to renounce the will to live and so fund a more lasting escape from suffering. This is a reference because I got this bit of the book, Price 2019, page 506. I'll tell you bits about the book and bits of his main initiative. So, his three examples, this is me now. So, his three examples. So, he's basically explaining to help a friend, perhaps through compassion. It will make you have a better outlook of your own life. Perhaps your friends are upset about a loss of a hamster, just say, for example. So, you give them your compassionate side, give them a shoulder to cry on. Problem shared is a problem halved. Something simply gives us a better understanding how people can be and how hypochondriac some can be. So maybe to us it can seem as an opinionated side. Someone being up screaming over a dead hamster can be hypochondriac. A key to always Sophna's conception of compassion as suffering with another person, however, is because compassion involves suffering with others, that it motivates people to act altruistically. It distracts us from our own needs and concerns, and it also enables some people how to appreciate universality of the suffering. Nevertheless, while Schopenhauer calls compassion as a pivotal role in his philosophy, we might wonder whether it is the picture he paints of it altogether flattering. According to Schopenhauer, compassion is a painful emotion. If it distracts us from our own misfortunes, it is only because it immerses us within the suffering of others. Moreover, with compassionate person takes a further step along the road to salvation. They find themselves burdened not just with the suffering of their acquaintances, but with the suffering of all humanity. This is my last assignment for university. So I hope the reading is all my own knowledge. Schopenhauer has then denied the experience of suffering of all humanity. It is a tormenting as experience one's own, but it was not in all clear of why this should be. So by it hasn't given us a clear cut of what we had in mind exactly. But what I'm gathering from my own experience, taking somebody else's pain isn't half as bad to take your own problem in life, i.e. losing your mother or father perhaps, but grieving for a friend as half as bad, but sympathetic. Price 2019, page 406. Striving altogether on the face of it then, Schopenhauer account, face the version of the burdening objection. This is the objection that compassion demands too much from us. So here he could still reasonably argue that the burden of compassion is not worth bearing, taking on board that without compassion, people wouldn't have any motivation for treating each other kindly and relieving human suffering overall. Nor would people be able to take the first step on the road to salvation. Compassion is what brings humanity together as a unit. Exactly what I'm saying. I'll be with you 2 seconds, guys. I think my dad might be here now as well. Hence why we consider Schopenhauer's account of compassion within the context of Schopenhauer's theory as a whole. This is not a very damaged objection. It certainly threatens to undermine Schopenhauer's second claim. Still, this does not make much of a dent as a theory as a whole. All right, Queenie. I think I've got PK tonight at 10:40. I think it's still going ahead. Although I think they're dropping my hosting thing, which is quite peculiar. Here's the second reason why the objection is important. This is possible for someone to agree with Schopenhauer's account of what it's like to experience compassion while rejecting the rest of his history. Indeed, perhaps you hold a combination of views yourself. So imagine humanity and compassion. You'd be a steer clone of cold blood killer. Certainly that either sick with yourself, possibly illness, when you full effects and be treated for such care. I'll be back 5 minutes, guys. I think my dad's here. So my brother's here. So I'm gonna say take care, speak soon. I'll be back shortly though. Think so. I can hear a car.